Oh my God, hi guys! Happy New Year! So excited to be back. So today we have, I think the main thing that's on the docket is the plea and arraignment for Deamonte Kendrick. But thanks to Kayla Bumpus, the probation revocation hearing that was set for February, today. It's happening today. So I don't know if that's happening in front of Whitaker as well, but if there's a stream for that, we'll take a look at that. If not, we'll look for an update to see what happened. On my screen here, I think this is awesome. Thugger Daily reported on it yesterday that Deamonte Kendrick has actually retained Bruce Harvey and Nicole Westmoreland. This is to replace a different attorney. It wasn't Kayla Bumpus. The name was Mohammed Lawemba. So this is their notice of, or their entry and substitution of counsel. And also, just as a friendly reminder here, because Kayla back in December secured bond for the contraband matter that Deamonte Kendrick is also dealing with, if this probation revocation thing, if that whole issue we watched discussed in front of Judge McBurney, if that gets resolved, even though he has to still go through trial for these charges or take a plea, whatever he decides, he could finally be free. So, if you guys want the case number, I see you guys are... Good to see you, Brittany. The case number here is 23SC 188186. So, he's got some stuff to sort out still. We are live, so let's switch over there.
Number one. All right. Mr. Kendrick, Mr. Harvey.
Two names we're happy to hear, Kendrick and Harvey.
All right, we'll keep moving. Mr. Harvey, come back and see me when you have an announcement.
I've got one announcement, Your Honor.
Not ready?
Well, I don't know which case you're talking about, but there's a camera here.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it has anything to do with one of my cases. And if it does, I'm objecting to it. There's been no notice to us. There's been no hearing. I don't know whether any order has been entered. I haven't been provided an order. So I have a problem
Okay.
with the presence over the camera.
Okay, well, we'll take it up in a little while.
So that's my first objection.
Okay.
My next one is a notice of intent to line, no matter what it is.
Well, Bruce, we've known each other for over 40 years.
Oh my gosh.
The Apollo Bird. Mr.
That's also Mr. Harvey's case, Mr. Bird.
All right, number three, Judge.
Do you have an announcement on Mr. Bird?
Well, isn't this a status calendar?
This is in
Yes,
person.
Status conference, yes.
Yep.
Okay, we have like a day's worth of motions that are still outstanding on Mr. Burke, correct?
Yes, Judge, came before the court to address some motions when a potential conflict was discovered. And I think we broke from that to allow
That's right.
Mr. Harvey time to consult with his client and a potential state's witness about those conflicts and secure outside representation or consultation.
That's right. And one of the outside counsel that has talked with one of the individuals is present here today. So that, I'm halfway through resolving a potential conflict. I have outside counsel who's talked to one party, but not outside counsel that has talked to the other party.
Okay.
And this young man, who used to have a ponytail and has lost all of his strength and valor by cutting his ponytail, is present today.
All right.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Why are we talking about cutting ponytails?
Yeah, but it's kind of weak, I gotta say.
And so are we going to further notice it at this point?
Yes.
Okay, for when? February 3rd?
Well, Judge, you can further notice it to whatever calendar you would like, and it just depends on
Yeah.
whether and I will work on getting that resolved, number one. Number two, I know I'm gonna be on trial during the February 3rd period. So that's an advance notice of conflict. But put it on there, and if something comes up, we'll be able to make it.
You wanna do some other date?
I don't wanna give a date yet, Judge.
You don't wanna give a date, period,
This,
or the 3rd?
they need to, when will the conflict be resolved? Do we know? Can it be resolved this week possibly?
No. I started a trial out of the continental United States on, the day after, Martin Luther King holiday, and I anticipate that will last at least 2 weeks. So I'll be in trial away from here.
Do you know how long that trial is supposed to last?
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
All right, so we're talking 3rd week in February.
Well. Just put it down.
Okay.
I've got a conflict. I've got a conflict until 2026 at this point. And Max can verify that. He's my witness.
Oh, is Max Shart in the room too?
Oh,
Oh, I hear Max Shart.
okay, you'll receive a notice.
All right, okay. Can I just run back and tell Mr. Bird was shaken?
Sure.
Not while the judge is on the
Yeah,
bench.
yeah, momentarily you can.
Okay.
All right, did we need to, Judge, here's a note, and if we can address the Kendrick situation so we can move on.
All right.
Raul, don't leave.
No, we're talking about the other matter.
Okay, well, as far as Rule 22 goes, I understand that it was filed and decided before you made an appearance.
Okay, well, we're still, I think the rule says after notice and hearing.
All right. I don't know if there's a hearing or not. Okay, I'll reread it.
Okay, please.
And we'll be in touch. Don't leave the courthouse.
No, I was waiting to go see Mr. Bird, and
Okay,
we're gonna talk with everybody with regard to the other matter.
okay, all right,
And I still have my 2 witnesses here, just in case.
okay, good. Number 4, Sharon, yes,
Mr. Belgrave hasn't been brought up yet.
he has not been brought up, okay. Woolens Pierre,
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Pierre is up, and he can come out if you want. We do have an announcement.
all right,
So they're going to handle another matter in between. But guys, don't forget, somewhat recently, Bruce Harvey was like physically going at it with a bailiff a little bit because of a Rule 22 in a different case with a different client. I think he was representing an accused police officer, and he was asking for cameras not to be shown, and the cameras were currently panning on the client, the defendant. And Bruce Harvey was like, absolutely not. So something he takes very, very seriously.
okay.
This Mr. Woolens,
Mr.
and Mr. Pierre,
Mr. Pierre,
Lawrence is his first name.
Pierre, Mr. Pierre.
Yeah, Mr. Pierre.
all right.
All right,
what's
so
the
I
announcement
think
on Mr.
law and
Pierre?
crime,
Mr. Pierre, by the way, has positions 5 and 6 on the calendar.
we'll catch up on this if you want to watch what's going on with Mr. Pierre, but I do, for anyone checking in, we are supposed to also have a feed in front of Judge Whitaker if that hearing takes place today. It's the plea and arraignment. Bruce Harvey and Nicole Westmoreland filed an entry of appearance on this entire case, so I imagine they'll be in the courtroom for that as well. But I wanted to give some quick dates for the remaining YSL defendants. So let's see. Yesterday, we had a motion to suppress filed by Eppinger. We can read that when this is all said and done. I also linked it in the chat. I'll throw it in the description. On the 13th, that's when we're going to have the immunity hearing for Christian Eppinger, right? He motioned like a really long time ago for immunity from prosecution. He's raising an affirmative defense of self-defense and defense of others. There's also, I see on the calendar, a final plea hearing for Tenquarius Mender the same day. And that's going to be in courtroom 5D in front of Whitaker. So different courtroom, hopefully cameras are in there for that. There are Rule 22s already in place for that stuff. So I expect that at least one of those hearings will be streamed. And then on January 17th, we have the pretrial hearing. And I think that's the final one. If we're going to start this in February, that's going to be at 10 a.m. So January 13th, January 17th, 2 more days to look out for.
Your Honor.
Okay.
Or, yeah. Yeah. Right now, we're just gonna have it moved to a trial calendar. We're not accepting the offer. Mr. Pierre faces immigration issues that we're still trying to deal with, and these types of charges definitely put in the ability that he may be deported. At this point, we're just gonna go forward to the trial calendar.
All right. Further notice, trial calendar. Do you have an approximate date on that?
Judge, it may be the, February or, March trial calendar, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Mr. Pierre.
And that's my case, Ms. Ronson, 88 Hall.
Both cases, Ms. Hall?
Yes, Ms. Ronson.
Okay.
Joseph Wheat.
Your Honor, my understanding, he's not been brought up yet.
Okay. Jamel Fisher.
I don't know. Oh, Mr. Fisher, Your Honor, it has to be reset. He is still on loan to Graydon, as they say, so he is not available.
He wasn't brought over, Pilgrim.
No, still in Brady,
Okay.
going out.
All right. Cherish Okafor.
I believe that they've not been brought over yet either.
All right.
Here or not up? Not brought up. Oh, okay, who's here?
Okay, we'll come back to this, that pre-trial.
Yes, that's a people.
Pretrial and Wheat. Okay.
What's on, Okafor, Judge, number 9?
Okafor has two, I believe that they've been brought up, that's this female.
Okafor is not here. I don't know, I'll call down the chicken, see if he's maybe in route or what he's at, but he's not here.
It's a female.
Oh, female? Oh, she went. All right, okay.
Hambrick.
He's here.
He's here?
We'll just hang out watching these other people.
Right now, I believe that Ms. Jolly just got here, we just need to talk to her real quick to see if there's a response from the committee.
All right.
You guys got attached last
that's
time
two
we had
cases.
the pretrial, and it was, I think the gentleman's name was
Torrance
Mr.
Roebuck.
Williams. We got invested, wanted to see what happened.
All right. Is he up? Yep.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna waive formal arraignment and
Yeah,
Move
we
on.
just want to address the failure to appear as well.
all right. Ms. Nix, you're here on behalf of Roebuck.
I've got a new court reporter, guys. We got to learn the faces.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Come and do what you got to do. Move on.
Oh, that's Miss Persefield.
Ms. Carson.
We got a familiar face.
Come on out, Mr. Roebuck. Stand study next to your attorney.
Yes, Your Honor, this is Mr. Torrance Roebuck, number 13 on the jail calendar, 24 SC 000139. We plead not guilty and waive formal reading. We'd like to address the failure to appear. He had a court date on 10/10/2024, for which he failed to appear, and there was a bench warrant issued. In talking with him and checking on the system as well, what it appears to be, it was a address mishap. They had his address in there as 1033 Hollowell Well, HOLLOWELL, which is, I don't even think it's a street in Atlanta. It was corrected when he got arrested. The correct address is in there. I verified that with him. It's 1033 Hollywood Road, Northwest, apartment R3, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. So it is correct in there now, but it was not correct, so he did not get notice. So we are gonna ask for you to lift the warrant and reinstate the bond. I've checked the bonds. He's not come off them, so they're still good. And he has the correct bonds on the correct charges. So just ask to have the warrant lifted and bond reinstated.
Let's say the state.
Judge, it looks like he was arrested on the bench warrant just a couple weeks after his failure to appear, so the state is no position.
He was arrested on the bench warrant for the failure to appear.
Yes, sir.
All right.
This case was in non-complex and it was just transferred up here.
All right.
The judicial hold lift order was signed on October 22nd, so he was arrested at some point that day or before.
All right. Mr. Roebuck, is the 1033 Hollywood Road address a good address?
Yes, sir.
And who lives there with you?
This is my friend of mine's apartment where I stay with.
All right. And as far as you know, your friend's still there.
Yeah, they said it.
You still allowed to go there?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you change your address, you need to tell your attorney, you need to come down and tell the clerk's office
Yes, sir.
also.
Yes, sir.
You understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you have your attorney's telephone number?
Yes. Oh, no, not yet, not yet.
Okay, well, she'll give it to you before you leave. Get in touch with her.
Make sure I heard.
I'll set aside the bench warrant.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's it.
Next court date will be February the 5th.
February 5th.
Yep.
Okay,
Be here whether or not you receive a notice or not.
okay.
Okay.
Goes for all those other dates, guys. It's February the 5th, not the 3rd. Sorry.
Yeah. Jansen Williams. Anybody here on Mr. Williams' behalf?
Judge, that one, they were gonna file a waiver and I asked the deputies not to bring him up.
Okay.
I've been in touch with Mr. King.
All right.
And, we'll probably set that one to the 3rd.
Or the 5th. 3rd or the 5th?
I mean, the 5th.
Right.
I don't know why you keep saying the 3rd, Judge. It's the 5th. February the 5th.
You're the one who told me the 3rd.
I know, but I don't want you to keep saying it.
Andrew Sybick.
Because these are,
Bring him out here.
Okay. Sybick, number 15, Andrew.
This really is such a tiny, tiny courtroom compared to 1C. Steph says, "Oh, look, a door."
Hawkins still in here.
Yep.
Mr. Hawkins, Jason Williams, is that gonna be you?
Yes, Your Honor, or yes, Mr. Ross.
Okay, Mr. King, he was gonna file, he had a conflict for today. He may
Okay.
have been included on that. He's gonna file a waiver. He also filed a motion for bond. I didn't see where one was had. So we'll probably put it on for February the 5th.
Oh, Chase and Bond.
And, yeah.
Okay, got it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right, thank you.
And Your Honor, Mr. Civic waives formal arraignment and enters a not guilty plea.
Okay. Mr. Sybick, stay in touch with your attorney. And when's the next reasonable court date? February 5th. All right?
And these, anyone just joining, these are other cases on the docket.
Larry Shoemaker.
Especially with pleas, arraignments, those move pretty quickly, so you'll have multiple scheduled for the 10 o'clock block.
Video judge, and, but he's in the hospital at the prison, so we're gonna reset him. I may try to get him on next week, but it's just for an arraignment.
All right.
Or probably, that date will be to be determined. How about that?
Okay.
That works.
Jasmine Worthhands.
through the space and I brought the female out of her.
Okay. That takes care of 18 and 19 and 20.
And Miss Sylvia is saying
Isaiah
that
Madison.
Harvey
Via video.
and Westmoreland are in the hallway talking to a prosecutor right now.
I don't see anybody in the waiting room from the prison, so let's give them a few more minutes.
All right. Demetrius Clay.
He is up. He's up.
See Mr. Lawanda?
Mr. Luemba.
Okay.
We lose him again. He's in the courthouse, so can you text him? Ask him to come back down? Okay, I'm gonna put a question mark. Philando Hunter.
He's up.
Yeah, hold on, Your Honor, just so we can follow up with Ms. Jolly if there's any recommendations from the commission.
All right, so you'd like to hold for your announcement?
Yeah.
All right. Zachary Pearson.
He's up.
He's up.
He's up.
I didn't get a chance to speak with him, Your Honor, because I was focused downstairs.
All right, we'll set it down for plea.
I don't know if Mr. Pearson would like that.
Back
Deja
to the
Smith
good old
Johnson.
seal.
She hasn't been brought up yet.
Shout out to Positive Q for becoming green again. Thank you so much. So, you know, this seal looks a little bit different. It's not as bright as the other one. And I think Chada Scottum says, you know, what is this? Is it February? Well, there's an arraignment and plea hearing, but there's also a probation revocation hearing for Deamonte Kendrick that was set for February, but Kayla got it rescheduled to today. So, Bruce Harvey, if you missed it, you can go back probably about 15, 20 minutes at this point, but probably about 15. We've only been on for 20 minutes. and see Bruce Harvey say a little bit like, hey, I want to address the Rule 22. I don't want cameras to film my client for this matter. Judge said, all right, I mean, I'll read the Rule 22 again, but there was one filed before you filed your entry of appearance here in this case. And then seems like they're waiting on some other matters, but they're going to come back to it. So that's why we're hearing about other defendants, totally separate cases in the meantime. So we'll see. As far as the YNW trial, guys, I know those hearings honestly were kind of, it was two days of hearings. To me, not much happened. We're waiting on the state to turn over the search warrant, get it together.
He's never been arraigned on this
No,
charge?
he has not.
No, he has not.
All right, well,
So if we can do it that.
There's the
way,
ponytail.
is it of a nature that would be right for a plea?
Negatory.
All right, okay,
Well, it would be ripe, but that's all it would be. We're still, well, we're talking,
all right.
okay?
Well,
He's got multiple cases, Judge. He's got one in Judge McBurney.
Right.
It's a more serious case. So I think we're potentially discussing how to resolve that if we can.
So the best way.
It's Westmoreland.
At this particular point-
So you're looking for a universal settlement?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
So may we do the arraignment in that fashion?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Madam Clerk, may I get the paperwork?
Yes, you may.
The judge giving permission for
Sorry to get you down here for nothing. Of course, I didn't have anything to do with getting, no, I'm talking about the cameraman.
I thought you were talking to me.
No. But it doesn't look like anything's gonna happen with Mr. Kendrick's case today.
There we go. But he was just in the hallway speaking with prosecutors. So
Are you working with Mr. Harvey?
Yes, sir.
What's your name?
Attorney Nicole Westmoreland.
Okay, Mr. Westmoreland. All right, nice to meet you.
shout out to Westmoreland.
Brains and beauty, I'm just the aging boy, it's cold out there kind of guy. You know, I thought this morning that if you're over 70, you should be exempted from coming out in any weather that's below 30 degrees.
Good luck with that one.
I was looking for the exemption.
Oh, Bruce. They cut off the mic. No, let us keep hearing. Just his banter. All right. So, that's what we've got. So they were just speaking to the prosecutor in the hallway. We heard the prosecutor's voice. I don't know if it was the same prosecutor, but a woman did say, sorry, I was out there speaking to counsel, so I don't know what matter we're on right now. So it seems like that was probably the same one that was out in the hallway. We'll have to wait and see on that. I'll look for updates as we're here. We'll keep refreshing. In the meantime, I'll keep the screen up in case we hear anything come back and we hear Bruce speak again. We're moving. All right, so they're going on to a different case. If you guys do want to take a look at...
Okay. Yeah, we'll get Mr. Harvey out. You may, if that's all your business.
Oh, y'all didn't get the next court date? Next court date? It'll be the 5th.
5th February.
Case management.
Did he say the 5th of February?
When's your birthday? May? Don't tell me about big ones.
Pause? What?
You gotta get over that. Judge Downs is down in St. John's right now. The low is 78 and the high's 81.
There isn't all that much to recap. It seems like Bruce Harvey and Nicole Westmoreland were speaking with a prosecutor out in the hallway. They came back in, and it seems like everybody in the courtroom's in agreement that, you know, nothing's going to happen with Kendrick's case today. So it seems like this matter in front of Newkirk is really in relation to the probation revocation hearing. But whatever is happening, it's going to push back the plea and arraignment. Just like we saw the plea and arraignment hearing get reset from December to today, it seems like that's going to get pushed back as well. So,
An Ambien? That puts you out.
Judge Downs told me fly at night, so that.
Why not take an Ambien, a half an Ambien? Yeah, put you out.
So
Sleep.
few times,
talking about Ambien.
4 hours, to the left coast, we've had flights in the evening.
Okay, yep, that's what I thought I heard. Thanks, Drea. So February 5th is going to be the next court date. We can check the updated docket in a little bit too if you guys want. Do you guys want to take a look at the
What I'm seeing on the news,
motion to suppress that Eppinger filed yesterday? I'll drop a link to it regardless, but if you guys want to read through it, we can read through it.
a young man who actually worked on airplanes and stuff, so he was kind of explaining things to me and everything, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. All right,
You,
thank you.
you ever watch air disasters on the Smithsonian Channel?
I stay away from those,
Yeah.
and I don't have to watch that. It's on the news.
All right, so this just seems like a little bit of banter going on there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so just to be clear here, this confused me. So Kathy said 6 minutes ago we've muted the stream and are showing the seal while the judge handles other cases. Yak has not been called yet. That confused me, but then she also said they're not moving forward today with the arraignment. So I think that's done. We will keep the feed up in case we hear something go on with Yak. But in the meantime, we can look at this motion, because remember, what Yak is dealing with isn't part of the YSL case. That's done for him. He's waiting on other matters to have some type of resolution or at least get a bond so that he could get out of custody finally. But it seems like, as you guys are hearing, seems like they were discussing a global resolution with the prosecutors, which would help settle all matters that this prosecution team is prosecuting, even if it relates to different cases. In addition to what he's awaiting arraignment for, he has a separate matter, and we could pull up exactly what it was with Thugger Daily, that Kayla got him a bond on in December. And okay, so it says one unauthorized possession, prohibited something, unauthorized possession, maybe Zan? I don't know. I can't really read this. Unauthorized possession, unauthorized possession. So I'll link to this if you guys want to look at it with better eyes. This is Thugger Daily's post. And then Law and Crime just ended their feed. So we'll just go over and do this. Well, that's the state's response. Hold on. Where's this Eppinger suppression motion? I believe we talked about the state's response to the immunity motion in December. Sorry if I linked to the wrong one in the chat. Here's a link to the suppression motion in case it was the wrong one last time. But what are they arguing for? And I believe this is Sean Hoover's his attorney, right? Nope, we got Eric Johnson. All right. So let's see. And this has a border on this document. This is an interesting looking document here. It's got some fancy formatting. Some fancy formatting here. But let's see. This was filed again yesterday. Motion to suppress identification evidence. Comes now the defendant through undersigned counsel and pursuant to the 8th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution of the United States and Article 1, Section 1, paragraphs 1 and 17 of the Georgia Constitution of 1983 moves this court to suppress as evidence in this case the testimony of any witness as to pretrial identifications of the defendant and to prohibit any in-court identification by the witnesses, and in support thereof shows as follows. Defendant anticipates the introduction of eyewitness testimony in this case, including a live and or photographic identification of the defendant. Defendant believes that the identification procedures were so unreliable as to give rise to a substantial likelihood of irreparable misidentification. Here, the alleged victim stated he was approached from behind and robbed at gunpoint by 2 black men in masks. He believed he recognized one perpetrator from a physical disability not possessed by defendant. He did not identify the second perpetrator by name, nor did he provide any physical description of the defendant's face, size, gait, clothing, scars, tattoos, or any other identifying mark, as his estimate of the second perpetrator's size does not fit the physical stature of defendant. Nor did alleged victim provide any identifying statement attributable to the second perpetrator, believed by authorities to be defendant. Okay, so 2 people are accused of, robbery here. There's a description given to someone that's purportedly supposed to be with Christian Eppinger. They believe the second perpetrator is Eppinger. They don't describe Eppinger, but they describe the first perpetrator, and the description doesn't match who the state is saying is the first perpetrator. So that sounds a little messy if we take this at face value. A pretrial identification by police via photo lineup was conducted, whereby defendant was identified as the perpetrator of said offenses. Now, this could be a whole separate conversation, but in general, short summary in the chat, YouTube limits your character count. What is your opinion of photo lineup integrity for identification, just generally speaking? 3, defendant was not represented by counsel at the time of the photo lineup, and the procedures used by police and state official in conducting the same were designed to focus upon defendant. So it seems like they're alleging that the police were steering as part of this identification. Here, the alleged victim did not identify the named perpetrator during the first photo lineup conducted. The defendant was identified during a second lineup, where the officer conducting the lineup pulled defendant's photo from the 3rd position in the stack of photos consisting the lineup and placed it on top of the stack in the presence of the alleged victim, upon which the alleged victim selected defendant's photo. So, how are you visualizing this? We've got this lineup. We go through round 1. Nobody recognizes the defendant. Nobody recognizes Eppinger's picture. The alleged victim doesn't say, yeah, that one. So then they do it again. They shuffle after you've already looked through something that contained Eppinger's photo. They swap out all the other photos with new photos. Add in a photo, or keep the same photo maybe of Eppinger, maybe a different one. I don't know how many photos they have. But this alleged victim went through round 1 and got to see Eppinger's face at least once. So they switch all the other pictures, but Eppinger, same photo, different photo, Eppinger's still in this second round. And then the officer, according to this motion, is moving that particular picture to the top. And then the alleged victim goes, okay, that one. But what's the problem with that? Human mind works in funny ways. If I saw that photo previously, and then I see that same face, the second round I've got to go through this, my brain, and I might genuinely think that's the person because I'm recognizing it as being familiar. I might not try to be malicious and say, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to pick this one. But something in my mind could say that face looks familiar. Why? Because I've seen it previously in the first round of this. This seems a bit problematic. If we take this at face value, this seems problematic. It is, of course, well established that there is already a, quote, great potential for misidentification when a witness identifies a stranger based upon a single, brief observation in a stressful situation. United States v. Russell, the innumerable dangers inherent in such identifications, which have led to a high incidence of miscarriage of justice, were described by the United States Supreme Court in United States v. Wade. As the court observed there, the lack of reliability of such evidence is well documented. The Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment protects an accused against the admission of unreliable identification evidence. That's Manson v. Braithwaite, Lyons v. Johnson, because the intrinsic unreliability of eyewitness identifications is so often compounded with the distorting effects of the natural suggestion to the witness that the person on trial is the guilty one, right? We've talked about that with the YSL trial. Why are we here? Surely we wouldn't be here if the police didn't do an investigation and figure out who was doing this stuff. You know, there's already a hurdle to overcome just by the fact that this is in a trial, in a courtroom, making sure that human nature doesn't steer us to think, well, surely somebody must have done it. Why else would the defendant be sitting here? Then on top of it, you add in eyewitness identification problems. So they're saying here, they're quoting here this Lyons v. Johnson. This is a great point, that the intrinsic unreliability of eyewitness ID is so often compounded with the distorting effects of natural suggestion to the witness that the person on trial is the guilty one. It is no exaggeration to venture that the influence of improper suggestion upon identifying witnesses probably accounts for more miscarriages of justice than any other single factor. Perhaps it is responsible for more such errors than all other factors combined. And we're going to pull up a database. We're going to look at some exoneration data. Such evidence must be excluded where, as here, the totality of the circumstances indicate that the entire identification process was unreliable and thus resulted in a substantial likelihood of misidentification. And then they cite here Neal v. Biggers, Simmons v. United States, and Thornton v. State. Here, under the totality of the circumstances, there exists a very substantial likelihood of irreparable misidentification because the photographic identification procedure here was so impermissibly suggestive, as the alleged victims did not have a good opportunity or long time to view the perpetrators, as the robbery only lasted lasted seconds. In addition, the perpetrators were wearing face coverings at the time of the robbery. So, 2, could only have possessed a low degree of attention to the perpetrator's identity, as the presence of the weapons and the assailant's various instructions and demands surely affected the alleged victim's degree of attention. 3, did not provide an accurate description of the criminal prior to the suggestive lineup, as the physical description given does not match defendant. And I would say, you know, I think as much as I want to say objectively that this has reliability issues, right? How much can you really think or recall in the moment? The problem is when somebody sits on the witness stand and identifies someone as being the person they saw in that moment, that is compelling to juries whether it should be or should not be. But when you get into further stuff like this, well, they gave a description that clearly did not match the defendant. That's a bit more significant, right? Well, you said they look like this, but this does not look like that, does it? Right? Then 4th, they say demonstrated a degree of certainty in the identification of defendant as a perpetrator only after the suggestive act of placing defendant's photo on the top of the pile of photos by the officer in the presence of the alleged victim. 5, only identified the defendant during the suggestive lineup performed 8 days after the crime, after providing no other piece of identifying information of defendant in the 8 days. 6, based his identification upon inducement by the conduct of the lineup and not upon observations at the time of the assault at all. So, I don't know. Because pretrial identification was obtained by law enforcement authorities in violation of the defendant's constitutional rights, the prosecution can elicit an in-court identification only by showing, by clear and convincing evidence, that any in-court identification would rest upon a source independent of the illegal pretrial identification procedures. So you've got to find another way to ID, because this photo lineup where you stack the photo, that shouldn't cut it. That's a violation. The defendant submits that the prosecution cannot make the requisite showing in this case. So the defendant saying they don't have somebody else. Our appellate courts have disapproved of such practices as one-person show-ups. So that's Baines v. State, confirmation of selection from photo spreads, Dodd v. State, Lowe v. State. And sometimes, guys, when we see older cases, I know we might be like, oh, they're reaching. But when you're showing multiple older cases, the argument there is that this is well established. This has always been a problem. And one-person in-court identification, State v. Fry, where the trial court properly excluded evidence of out-of-court identification and in-court identification on grounds of impermissibly suggestive identification procedures. Barring suppression, the defendant moves in limine to prevent any testimony by law enforcement agents regarding the alleged identification. So even if they can bring in that this alleged victim identified somebody, maybe through the witness themselves taking the stand, they want to bar law enforcement from being able to get up there and testify to the procedure and the same thing. And a win there would be sometimes when you hear things repeated, and we saw this strategy with the YSL trial, just put 5 or 6 gang experts up there and have them say the same thing. And maybe because we say it so many times, it'll stick. It'll stick. But at least if you don't want to suppress this entire identification, don't let an officer get up there and bolster it and repeat that, yeah, this identification was made. In totality, the pretrial identification procedures used by police officials were unduly suggestive, and therefore, any evidence as to pretrial identifications or in-court identifications will be tainted. So, wherefore, the defendant requests this court to order a pretrial evidentiary hearing on the matters set forth above, and further requests that any such illegal identification be suppressed from the trial in this matter. So, I'm not sure if they'll handle this type of hearing, if they'll, if they filed this on the 6th, and it is Whitaker's courtroom, hold on. They want to have this other hearing on the 13th. How many business days is that? Is that 5 business days? So if they got receipt of this yesterday, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the 13th would be 5 days. So if Whitaker counts this as being submitted to the state, they'd have their 5 business days to respond by the 13th. So maybe they'll hear this on the 13th when they go over the immunity motion. So I don't really see anything indicative on the docket that shows a specific hearing set for this. We just know that on the 13th, we already had that immunity motions hearing scheduled. It just says motions hearing. So I think they could discuss this then. There's 5 days in between. And then again, on the 17th, we have the final pretrial conference for all the remaining defendants, unless there's an issue that pushes the trial back. So there you go. I'm going to link this again. This is pretty interesting. But have you guys ever looked at statistics on the causes? When there's an exoneration, when somebody that's been convicted, sentenced, sitting in custody because they were found guilty of something, but then they're later exonerated. University of Michigan has a database on the reasons for the exonerations. And it's just going to blow your mind if you haven't seen it before. So let me pull that up. All right, so I forget how this works, but I think if we just choose over here, and I'll link to this, I totally recommend you guys go play around with this, look through it. They do also have some specific stories, reports, analysis written out on exonerations and the causes of false convictions. Definitely a ton of stuff on this website. Let's see. If over here, if we just click, let's see. Mistaken witness identification. Oh, no, it's just defining it for us. All right, let's go back to where we were. That just pulled up a thing that defined mistaken witness ID. We can sort here, so this is how we'll do it. Now, this database, I think there's a few thousand in here. But look at how long we just scrolled. Mistaken witness ID. All of these cases, all of these exonerations, mistaken witness ID was a contributing factor, and sometimes it's the only listed contributing factor. Just astonishing. Just astonishing. Like crazy. And I also believe, look at some of the dates here. We have the 2 years. So convicted and exonerated. So Joseph Abbott's first one here on the list was convicted in 1995, was exonerated 14 years later. So, 14 years dealing with a matter that he was later exonerated for. Deemed innocent, he didn't do it. Contributing factor, mistaken witness ID. 1983 to 1999. You've got 16 years there. You've got 6 years here. You've got, 12 years here. Well, that was bad math. 18 years. Like, think about this. Think about this. And this is the kind of thing that when you say, is it better to let one guilty man go free, 100 guilty men go free, so one innocent person isn't held in custody? This is why. I don't think there's any way you can place a value or quantify the impact of saying, oh, well, it was a mistaken identity, but what if he'd really been guilty? Well, how do you give someone these years back? So yes, so King Slime, guys, if you're joining late, I mean, thanks for the update, King Slime Slat. No hearing today. If you guys want to go back earlier in the stream, you can go through that. But it seems like Bruce Harvey and Nicole Westmoreland were outside in the hallway speaking with the prosecutor and might be discussing a global settlement. Everything seems to be postponed till the first week of February 5th. So, but yeah, I don't know. Q, I agree. Innocent people do not belong in custody. It undermines the system. Like, just crazy. And there are people, like Juror 409. Juror 409. Probably doesn't believe a database like this exists. You know, they're in jail, they're in prison, they're doing time because they did something. But look at all these people who didn't actually do the thing. And they were in custody for, on average, most of these look at least 10 years. Right? This one's only 5, this one's only 3. But then we've got another 15 years here. And I'm not trying to minimize someone being held for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 10 days when they didn't do anything wrong. None of it's okay. So, and then, yeah, you can't get your years back. And the post-conviction space, guys, if you didn't know, Ashley Merchant, you know, her specialization, her area of work, she really likes to advocate for individuals in the post-conviction space. And I think it's an incredibly great field. I think it's underserved. Of course, someone with somebody's attention to detail, the way Ashley Merchant has an attention to detail, perfect person to have in that space. Now, post-conviction is anything after you've been convicted. What type of relief might be available to you? As far as, you know, still, if you maintain your innocence, what can you do to fight for your innocence? Appeals. You know, even right in that space, when a verdict comes in, there is post-conviction relief already, like a motion to set aside by the judge. So all these different things, Ashley Merchant actually specializes in that. There are programs emerging in states where if somebody was falsely convicted and held, there are programs starting to pop up. Some cities have it, some states have it, where if you're exonerated, there's supposed to be some government-backed compensation for you. But it's like pennies. It's like minuscule. I think there was a woman in Buffalo, New York, who was in custody for something like 19 years. And when she got out, they gave her something like $200,000, like $180,000. I mean, like, what? So it's nowhere close what it should be. Nowhere close to what it should be. So, I don't know. There's so much. And sorry, Lauren, do you mean the database? Let me link that again. If you don't mean the database, let me know. Oh, and Steph is on it. Thank you, Steph. Steph is on it. Linked it in the chat there. And it's always, this is the University of Michigan, UMich. I had it in my drop down because I look at it so often. So, you know, when you start typing something in your URL bar, it like brings up your history for you. But I've previously found it just by typing UMich exonerations, and it pulls up the database for you. So I also see the Innocence Project mentioned. Shout out to the Innocence Project. And they have a smaller, they specialize in, old DNA exonerations that could come down to DNA that wasn't tested or wasn't tested with newer technology that could possibly exclude somebody that was convicted. But maybe that technology either wasn't in place or the tests weren't done way back when. So they work on a very constrained type of cases, right? So that's why you see like the numbers that they deal with are much less. But I still think, a great organization. They've helped a ton of people. They really put up a fight for Marcellus Williams. And if you guys were following this channel back then, that was a really heartbreaking day for me. I don't believe that Marcellus Williams should have been executed, especially when you have prosecutor Wesley Bell saying, I don't think he should be executed either. But the governor comes in and says, nope, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We're going to move forward with it. So, So definitely check that out. If you guys also want to check out the Innocence Project for specific stories, one thing I like about them, let's see, their newsroom, I think, is where they do it. Okay, so we'll just share the tab. But if you go here, they have cases where you can look at specific cases. So I know a lot of people, we want to hear the story. We want to look at the person. We want to follow the details per case. So they have that. But they also do break things down by issues. And they break it down into real simple terms. You're not going to be inundated with data. They send out a bunch of newsletters. I love reading their emails. So if you guys want to check them out, sign up for their newsletter. Lots of people in the criminal justice space. If you follow Innocence Project over on X, I think the feed puts a lot of people, advocates in the criminal justice space that aren't necessarily employed by or affiliated with Innocence Project, but they work on similar causes. X seems to put a lot of great people in my feed, so I love that. Another great thing you could do is follow Innocence Project over there and just let the algorithm work its magic. No. So Corky Marie, because this other matter, there's no resolution to it, that's reset as well. So it looks like February 5th will be the next for that. Let me double check on X if there's any updates. February 26th, Sylvia's saying. So February 26th. So there we go. And then if you did join late, I did mention, as far as the YSL trial, the remaining co-defendants, on the 13th, we have at least Eppinger's motion for immunity. Maybe they'll discuss this motion to suppress the identification that we just went through. There's also a final plea hearing for Tenquarius Mender. That's YSL Nicole. That's Nicole Fagan or Fegan. That's her client. He's supposed to have his final plea hearing on the 13th as well. And then there's a status conference for all the co-defendants in front of Whitaker on the 17th. Both of those are going to be at 10 a.m. So the 13th and the 17th. So we'll get together next week for that. I do want to say, Kay Schmidt, so I'm thinking on a lunch break during a court day is when we'll go through the hedgehog names as a chat. We'll name the hedgehog. So not technically. There's plenty of name suggestions though. So that's coming. I think that'll be a good lunchtime filler. Good to see you. C Travel says, Kat, you would be a terrific paralegal. Listen, I do documents for free. So I would never want to put a career title on it. Plus I have my full-time work. You know, luckily for me, my full-time work, I can break up those hours to make this flexible schedule. But I do really like what I do for my day job as well. So I'll continue to do these documents for free. All right, nobody needs to pay me. I'll be a free illegal. Ashley Linnell says, Kat, if Eppinger is convicted, can't he appeal because it is one indictment? Anything from the first case applies. Is this why they want everyone to take pleas? I'm not sure. But the thing with Eppinger is this is the trial for the attempted murder. So previous cases, that's a separate matter. But as far as the charge for the murder, that's part of this indictment. It's not just RICO, just count one for Eppinger. And I'm questioning myself. So let me double check that before I conclude that. Yeah, so Eppinger has like these murder counts, these attempted murder counts that Eppinger's facing. this YSL case is the actual trial for those charges. It's not just applying RICO to something he's had trial for before. So, but this is still a very valid point for, we saw this exact thing that Ashley's talking about happen for other defendants with YSL, right? They're just here for count one. Like Blaylock, or Dalius Ryan, they had their murder trials, and then they were tied into this YSL indictment for a count one, RICO, saying that thing that they had a whole trial for already, we want to get them for RICO on those things, with those being the underlying acts. So this is still a really valid point and criticism. It doesn't really apply to Christian Eppinger as far as the attempted murder here with the police officers. But still a whole hot mess. I don't agree that this is the way that things are prosecuted, and I do think that it's part of the reason that they want people to take pleas. And one thing that I appreciated, sometimes when things are already here, it'd be a lot of work to undo all of this. I did appreciate that for Rodalius Ryan. Cool. He took a plea for that count one, the RICO. It's technically part of his record, but they gave him time served for it. So if he's able to successfully appeal for the other trial, the actual trial for the murder of Jamari Holmes, the sentence for this YSL hearing, it'll at least be done, right? So it'll still be on his record, but at least he could get out. But it's just crazy that that's the way it works. Yes, so I don't have a specific update here, but thanks for mentioning it. YP Comsheik says, we'll get an update soon from Happily Angry regarding Sledge 2. So he's saying next week sometime, hopefully. Hopefully. As soon as he shares something, I'm sure you'll retweet it, I'll retweet it, maybe even get on and do a video to let you guys know. But stuff is in motion with Munktunk. Again, that's probably my favorite news that I heard all throughout 2024 was the day that we got the final official confirmation that the Fit Lawyer ATL, Miss Tiffany, and Jim R., Happily Angry Lawyer, were working to help Antonio Sledge. So very excited to hear that. I think that was really messed up. And then let's see. I say yes to Judicial Watch. Is there a stream when we wrap this up? Is there something you guys want to go and watch? I know there's been a few people, Paralegal Institute, guys, if you've been hearing buzz about the Karen Reed trial, there's been a Daubert hearing, like a 2-day Daubert hearing for an expert witness that was just, like, they treated her like they were in trial cross-examining her. Like, I wish Glanville allowed the defense to do that to the state's witnesses in Daubert hearings for YSL. But over here, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts was, in my opinion, letting the Commonwealth run a mini trial on an expert witness during a Daubert hearing. So different courts, different things go down. I would have loved to have seen the same leeway for the defense here in the YSL trial. But Paralegal Institute of Washington is rewatching last year's Karen Reed trial. The first trial, it ended in a mistrial. Whether maybe the judge should have asked more questions of the jury or not is still something I'm not settled on. But he's going back to day one of that trial. It was a 6-week trial, so I think he started that today with day one. Taylor Umbridge and Flesh of the Gods are both rewatching YNW Melly's first trial. Again, hung jury there too, so he's awaiting trial 2. That's interesting, both of them. Second trial for both of those stories. And what else is going on this week? Any other trials? Courtney Clenny, the hearing kicked to next week. So there was a hearing for Courtney Clenny yesterday. That was moved to next week. That's in relation to, the defense is still looking to disqualify the state attorney's office because they've violated, I don't even say they're claiming that they violated privilege. It was ruled in a previous case, the laptop case, that state prosecutor Khalil Quinnan did a no-no by looking at privileged communications. And now they're arguing what weight that bears on the murder trial against Courtney Clenny. So they're still figuring some stuff out with that. No decisions from the judge. That's kicked back another week. So some big motion there in terms of attorney sparring. I don't think that's going to have a trial date set anytime soon, though. And then what else do we got? Okay, so here's one. Maybe we can link over there because I saw that Law and Crime streaming that right now. Heart of Inspiration, and great to see you. Says great to see you. I was watching the CNN defamation trial on Law and Crime. What will you be covering next? Miss you. Now, unfortunately, guys, a lot of what I I like to pay attention to, I'm not that interested in all of Diddy's trials. But I'm enjoying watching the press battle with Tony Busby and Alex Spiro. I'm watching that little, and that's kind of like a side mission of the story in a way. But that's not a full thing. I don't think that will actually go to trial. So I can't say I'm going to cover it. And I don't plan on covering all the Diddy stuff. I think there's so much against Diddy. To me, there's nothing that interesting. With YNW Melly, I think it's interesting because we had a mistrial. You know, the attorneys were struggling to be able to introduce a third-party culprit defense. Judge didn't want to let them do that. Karen Reed, Commonwealth didn't really want the defense to be able to talk about third-party culprit, whether that's Brian Higgins or Chloe Albert the dog, right? There's interesting things there that are that draw my attention. So I don't really know what I'm going to cover next. But again, we still have 2 things to cover next week from YSL. And what was that guy's name, the CNN defamation case? Zachary Young. So I'll probably tune into that. And speak of Karen Reed, we've got a German Shepherd over here. Chloe Albert was a German Shepherd, is a German Shepherd. That seems up in the air. Yeah, Chloe says that trial is stressful to rewatch. And before I get off topic here, figuring out what we're going to redirect to, let me see if Paralegal Institute is live and share that link now. And he said he's going to be going through the whole replay of it. So you'll be able to, if you jump in today, you'll be able to watch from day 1 as if you're watching it in order. Okay, yep, he just did opening arguments. So here's a link to day 1. And that's the rewatch. And I think her second trial, that's slated for the end of this year. Same thing, YNW Melly, that's October currently. October 25th, I think, is the tentative start date for YNW Melly. That's such a long ways away, you guys, and who knows if that's actually going to stick. He's been in custody, I think the count is 2,000 and something days, which is just like, holy moly. And then what is Law and Crime streaming? Sometimes you can just look at Law and Crime and you'll see them streaming several trials. But when they're not, it's like, what's everybody watching? So yeah, I see them doing the CNN defamation trial live, and that's the only live stream they've got right now. So I'm going to link to that as well. We're going to call this Zachary Young. This is a CNN defamation case. I don't see. Oh, Dolly Talk is like, we could redirect to Dolly Talk. I think if you guys don't know Judge Fleischer, he is very hilarious. And this is usually, it could be like traffic court appearance tickets. It's not all that different if you guys watch Judge Cedric Simpson's feed. Lots of cases, lots of snark, lots of heartwarming moments mixed in. But Dolly's doing a stream of his docket hearings today, his docket. So there's a link to that. And I was looking, one last one I wanted to look for was Taylor Umbridge. Okay, yep. So Taylor is live. Taylor is doing YNW Melly rewatch. Yeah, shout out John C's giving Fleischer thumbs up here. Fleischer's great. Oh, Zach. So the Skip Bayless lawsuit. Guys, I don't know if I could... Look, I don't doubt that work environment could have been like working in a restaurant kitchen, right? You know, staff, waitresses, mix and mingle. Working at a call center has the same type of rumor reputation that there's a lot of intermingling, dating in the workplace in certain types of environments. I feel like fair game, that very well could have been happening at Fox Sports, right? But something about that complaint really bothers me. And it was like one line, really bothered me. The woman that filed that complaint, she said something 2016, like years ago. 2016, something happens, and a few months later, she's having a conversation with Joy Taylor. And Joy Taylor's telling her, girl, this is how you got to move, right? I'm going to do all this, that, and the third. And if something goes wrong, something doesn't go my way, I'll just make an accusation. I'll falsely accuse to get my way. And so this girl that filed the complaint heard this back in 2016 and was just fine with it. To me, even if something happened to you in that workplace that shouldn't have happened to you, you are just as complicit with a toxic work environment. If somebody was telling you that and you did nothing about it back in 2016. So I have a problem with that part of the complaint. Because what are you alleging? You're alleging an unfair workplace, hostile work environment. You admit in your own complaint that you're part of the problem. So I don't know if I'm going to jump into that one. The memes, there's been a ton of memes. There's been a ton of coverage. I will be interested in watching it play out. But I can't really picture starting a live stream and advocating for the woman that filed the complaint when I think it's the same. It reminds me of those same principles where, Abu Ghraib. We've got a bunch of people. How did we get here? How did we as a group all get to be okay with torturing people, doing things that we're not supposed to be doing? Suddenly, one person wants to say something. But if you were complicit, I don't know. I don't know. Just seems very, very hypocritical. And I will say, I do not judge. I do think that people, if they feel afraid to say something, I get it. But there's a difference between saying people don't always come forward right away because there could be unfair consequences of reporting something. That's very true. But there's also situations where people don't say something about things because they're okay with it because it's benefiting them in that moment. So reading that one paragraph in that complaint makes me feel like this woman who filed the complaint was benefiting from it in 2016 and was fine with everything, even though she was contributing to the same thing she's complaining about now. And because I think that points to complicity on her part, I'm out. So I don't know. But I'll wait to see. And again, I have no doubts that was a crazy work environment. So I think anybody that has something coming for them it's coming their way anyway. But and then let's see. No, I'm not the same person in 2025 that I was in 2016, but at the same time, I would say this principle could apply to everybody. I mean, if we're going to give this grace to one person, you've got to give the same grace or consideration to all, right? This is a hypothetical. So it's not, is any one person the same person? It's just a general question. So, okay, so Zach Carter says Marcellus Wilder, I believe, did a video on it. He used to work at Fox with all of them. So that's good. Let me see if I can pull that up. Okay, I don't think what I'm searching, I think it's just giving me like generic results for Skip Bayless. I don't see anything from him specifically. Was it on YouTube? Yeah, so I don't see anything that's specifically from like a channel by that person. Yeah, I agree. So, like, I agree. Sometimes people stay because you know they shouldn't. But in this case, what in her own complaint, what's being claimed by her is it's not that she's staying in a relationship and it involves them two. It's isolated between her and another person. Joy Taylor, she's alleging that Joy Taylor was over here ready to falsely accuse somebody else. And she was about to let that go down. She didn't say anything about it in that time. If we have information come out that says in 2016 she actually did take action against Joy Taylor to prevent that sort of thing from happening or to document it to make sure Joy Taylor couldn't actually do that, I would change my take on that one paragraph of the complaint. But that action, I mean, that action is something that somebody could be sued for. You're complicit. When you see Jane Doe's listed on a lawsuit, somebody tried to extort me. Somebody tried to bribe me. You know, it was this person and they spoke about it with this person. They worked on it together. They were both going to keep the secret and then both put the story forward. In another situation, Joy Taylor and this woman could have been plaintiffs together. I mean, could have been defendants together. So I don't know. There's something that doesn't sit right with me about someone being open with you that they plan to falsely accuse or keep it in their back pocket that they could use false accusations. And you do nothing with that for 5 years. So I don't know. I don't know. And I'm telling you, it's just that one paragraph that bothered me. Everything else, I'm like, all right. I mean, I could see this stuff going down. We'll wait and see how it plays out. But again, I do think in another situation, this same person, the same individual filing this particular complaint could be a co-defendant of the others. So Ashley, I didn't see that in the complaint that she went to HR. So was that in there? That she went to HR on Joy Taylor's plans or claims that she planned that she could falsely accuse somebody? Okay, and then Heart of Inspiration, thank you. Let me look that instead. Oh my God. I've like watched, I have like the play bar. Okay. Oops. So my bad for totally being blank on that one, but here is, let's see. There we go. So That Dude TV. So here is that video on Fox Sports, the Skip Bayless lawsuit. And there we go. Okay, so yes, she went to HR, but not about the plans. So that's the thing. That's the very specific thing that I'm talking about here, right? I'm not talking about, if she went to HR to complain about Skip Bayless. I'm talking about, was she all right letting Joy Taylor rock with this plan that she allegedly stated to this plaintiff she would carry out if necessary? So that's what I'm looking for. Did she do anything to make sure that that wasn't going to be okay? Because to me, that sounds like hostility, retaliation, retribution, blackmail, possible extortion, that you were allowing a coworker keep in their back pocket. So I don't know. Yeah, and this is what I believe. So this, I believe, is that HR, whether they know every specific detail, I don't know. I don't trust a lot of HR departments. I think HR, they exist to keep the company in good standing, right? They're here to mitigate things rather than actually be resources for the humans that work there. So whether they knew everything specifically line by line, I'm not going to nitpick, but there's no way, you know the general feel, you get the vibe, you hear enough that someone in HR knew that at least something was going down. So, and again, that's why I say for what it is, I don't really have doubts about the broader representation made in that lawsuit. The specific allegations, whatever. We'll see. We'll see if those come to light with some more receipts. I really loved, guys, the internet is crazy. between the Blake Lively and Justin Baldani situation and this case against Skip Bayless, and Shannon Sharp's not named as a defendant, but clips of interactions with Shannon Sharp and Joy Taylor and Skip Bayless, you know, they're coming into play, and people are finding these clips where it's like, look at their language, look at the date that this interview is happening on. This is when it's alleged that this just went down. And then look at how they're acting on set the next day after this. And people are pulling all these clips super quick, and it's just kind of like, whew. Like, never play, like, the internet is forever. So, yeah, no, this, Leo, I agree. In this day and age, HR is just as messy. Heck yeah. Let's see. Also, big shout out, Trakisha. Good to see you. Good to see you. Also loved, we had this up here yelling Harvey when Harvey was not on the screen, but his voice was in the background. KC Dog says, good to be back with my KNW fan with the green heart and snake emoji. Malat, mod love all the time. Blessings to all in the new year. Guys, I wrote 2025 on the thumbnail. I was so happy I didn't write 2024. I know if I did, you guys in the chat, especially Factual, I would be like, hey, tap, tap. Like, your thumbnail has the wrong year. The whole year is wrong, Cat. I always struggle every year. Like, the first, honestly, like 30 days, not even just like a few days. Typically write the old year for like a couple weeks. It's bad. But this year I'm getting it right away. So shout out to the new year. Shout out to 2025. Let's see. And then FFS. FFS is out here sniping in. So we got 1, we got 2, we got 5, we got 7, we got 17, we got 27. Holy moly, FFS. FFS, guys. Let's show FFS some love in the chat. I miss hanging out with you, FFS. I was over in Flesh of the Gods rewatch of YNW Melly last night, and I didn't see you, and you were missed. You were missed. So there we go. And FFS, you guys, there you go. Good opportunity to yell FFS in the chat. There you go. Leah's dad says, FFS, are you hiring? Love to see it. Thank you so much for always supporting not just me, but so many other channels. And you also make so many people laugh. It's really nice that when you've been gone for a few days, people are like, where's FFS? Where is FFS? Oh, Brooklyn, was he? Okay, my bad. They were partially through. I don't know exactly when I joined, but it was in the middle of that day's hearing rewatch. So I might have missed him. I know Chloe was over there. Chloe was over there, and as soon as I saw Chloe in the chat, I was like, the Karen Reed Daubert hearing, oh my god. They said they found Chloe. I think, like, the worst, not serious part about the Commonwealth allegedly finding Chloe, the dog, is I hope you never have to change your username, unless you want to. But I love the username Chloe Albert's Revenge. So big shout out again to FFS. This is incredibly generous here. Big Baby Jane, good to see you. Happy New Year to you. Thanks for becoming green again. Tat Clouds is in here sniping away. I think Tat Clouds is you get people in different positions, marking where they gotta aim, where they gotta cover. You got FFS and Tat Clouds here working together, I think. Violet says, I've missed my co-conspirators and KNW chats. It's been a little weird. I've gotten so much work done in 2 weeks. This is an incredibly busy time of year with what I do for my clients. A lot of my clients are in real estate, and you've probably heard me say it, but real estate agents and brokers that give their agents some type of marketing budget, or maybe they do marketing for the whole team to generate leads, and they divvy leads between their team members as the year goes on. All of their planning, they're supposed to do their planning in Q4. Then their budget, they get their budget from top up, the higher ups, Q1 to implement. They all wait until the end of Q4. So like Christmas is around the corner and realtors are like, oh, I should be planning stuff for January. So suddenly in December, I get a flood of work orders, work requests, fulfillment orders. And then the budget comes in January and they want it out the door. So always a crazy time of year for me. I would say second half of December through February. So, but I've gotten to be really productive because of this break in the YSL trial. But I feel like I'm bored. I feel like I'm not doing anything fun without being able to come hang out. And I'm really grateful for the days that I've pulled up a YouTube chat. Someone else has been live. Survivor Speaks, Sapphire Ridge News, Flesh of the Gods, AV. They've been live and I've gotten to go in there and see them and see you guys there in the chat. Those are my fun moments. KC Dog is also out here sniping with the 5 gifted subs. Thank you so much. Also asking here, any future plans for the chat to link up? Listen, hold on. I wish STS was here. Shout out to STS, especially if he gets to catch this on replay. STS just wrote to me like, how are you handling the weather? And I think he thought it was a little bit up north where it's getting really cold. But funnily enough, we had like 40-degree weather on Sunday. It got pretty cold here in Florida for Florida standards. And then it was like 77. It felt like 80 degrees on Monday. So it was like so hot and sweaty and gross. And he'd sent this email. I got it on Monday. And I was just thinking like, it would be so perfect. We have this 80-degree weather that I think is hot and sticky. But there's this whole cold front. There's these snowstorms, all these blizzards. It would be a perfect day if everybody could have just been down in Florida for that Monday with that 80-degree weather. So I do think a secondary thing, not just a Catnut Williams meetup, but because I do live in Florida, if we did something like Orlando or Fort Lauderdale, although a lot of people don't like Fort Lauderdale's airport, so I don't know if I'd want to put people up to that. But, you know, what better reason for a meetup than just to say, hey guys, if you're feeling cold, or if you need to get away from, God forbid, the Palisades fires, that stuff looks crazy. That stuff is so scary to me. Everybody just come to Florida. So I would love to do something just impromptu for no reason whatsoever. Maybe next year, winter time, we'll just say January something. It's warm. Everybody book your own stuff and we'll just find karaoke nights. Get together. That's the thing, Corky. I would love 80-degree weather. I'm in snow. Oh, Leo says with wind chill factor, it was 8 in New York City yesterday. Wait, is this the Shanquella Robinson? Hold on, Michelle just got me. We're gonna steer. We've got a detour here. Do you mean Shanquella Robinson? The woman that was killed while on vacation with her friends in, was it Mexico? Oh my God, that was rough to hear the details about. I mean, can you imagine? You go out of the country, you think you're just going to be on a vacation having a good time, and then allegedly your friends beat you up and let you die. Okay, so lawsuit filed. I do see there's some news that a lawsuit was filed. So this might be civil. I'm gonna catch up on this. I am so glad that you put this in the air. I don't care if it's a civil suit. I mean, I'm happy to see some motion from it. If it ends up being a criminal prosecution, of course, I'm interested in that as well. I'm gonna drop a link to this here for you guys. The family speaking after the lawsuit was filed. So this seems like it's relating to a civil action, of course, but still some type of update. Get that in my queue to watch after we end this stream. Anyway, that was so sad. That was so sad. So unfortunately, I don't have like information, because I haven't watched it, but there it is for you guys to watch. And then maybe next time we link up, I'll have watched it and be able to say more on it. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like just a young life waste, and like I don't know. I always obviously the victim is the physical victim, but I don't know. I feel like situations like that, the loss of a family member, some type of remorse, if you're a family member or friend that feels like you could have done something to prevent it or stop it. Like maybe she has a friend that had a bad feeling about the group of friends that she traveled with, and that person's just dealing with a bunch of regret. Like, I didn't say anything, or I didn't say enough, or, maybe I said I didn't like your group of friends, but I was invited to go on that trip too, and I chose not to because I didn't really like the other people, but I could have been there to stop it. I always get into these like modes of thought where I'm just like, oh. And Corky Marie, I think this was really tragic too. I think a lot of it came down to it happening in another country. And I think for them to prosecute it here, they would have had to have made a showing that it was conspiratorial, like there was planning, like we're planning this now, we're going to travel overseas and just actually do the final action there, but the whole course of the planning is also taking place here in this country. I'm not really sure. So I think they tried to find evidence of that and maybe they couldn't. Yeah, like this part. Touche says the fact that they lied about her being drunk and then just fled the country after they killed her is so horrible. There's a somewhat similar, like, some woman. She was vacationing down in maybe Punta Cana. It was a tourist spot. It was Dominican Republic, and she was going at it with bartenders. They wanted to stop serving her alcohol, and they cut her off. And she has to go to her hotel room. She tries to come back to the bar while they're still open. They call the police to get her out of there. The police are nice to her. They don't pull her up into custody. They just say, just go back to your hotel. And for what it's worth, the police stayed there until the bar closed. But after the bar closed, and originally it looked like it could have been when everybody was gone, but then others were saying staff was still there cleaning down, breaking down the kitchen, everything like that. The woman comes from her Airbnb from across the road, and there was a canister of fuel, one of those red plastic canisters that you can keep as a backup for gasoline. There was one of those at the Airbnb because there were just power outages. She pours it and lights this establishment on fire, and it ends up burning the buildings next to it as well. And then she gets on a plane and flies back home. So it looks like they're looking to prosecute her. I don't think that she's going to get away scot-free. But just the audacity. You're kicked out of a bar. You pick up a can of gasoline, light the bar on fire. No regard for that fire spreading. No regard for anyone in that building. All because they cut you off. And then you just hop on a plane and just expect you'll get away with it. Nobody will know who you are. Just crazy. Crazy. And FFS says, just got a jury questionnaire. No! Don't shred it! Don't shred it. Guys, I think jury duty is a great right. Last time they called me, I did the phone calls or whatever, and kept calling each day, and then finally they told me they didn't need me and I was done. So I didn't actually get to serve. And I know it sounds boring, I know it's not a lot of money. But you could be the voice of reason on somebody's jury pool, for real. You could be the voice of reason. Yes, Lucinda, I do think Natalie Lawyer Chick talked about the Shankala Robinson case when things were happening. I know I watched a lot about it with the lead attorney. And it's been a while. I mean, some of these say 2 years ago, some of these videos up on this random search result here. That's how long ago. So that's just crazy. Renee Stevenson, good to see you, says, hi, Cat, Chat, and Mods. Missed you all. We missed you too. It's definitely been a good time. Loving this here. Chloe Albert's Revenge. You know, I went on my tangent speaking about Chloe the dog earlier, but now I'm seeing this chat. Chloe Albert's Revenge says, they still need to prove that it's Chloe, right? So Chloe the dog in the Karen Reed trial, you know, there's a possible explanation for the injuries on John O'Keefe, the victim, the deceased's arm. That looks like it could have been from a dog. Could have been dog bites. Specifically, Chloe was a German Shepherd. The family that owned her, you know, this whole case is like filled with police officers. But this could have been a dog that had experienced training with biting a certain way. And suddenly this dog was rehomed after this incident. Now, this dog, when it was rehomed, was supposed to be chipped. You would think that if a dog is chipped, yeah, we can identify it's the correct dog. They have the chip. But if that's the case, why didn't you find this dog for trial 1? Now it seems like you either have this dog and you think you can disprove the possibility that it was this particular dog that could have been an alternative culprit that caused these injuries on the arm, rather than it being Karen Reed backing a vehicle allegedly into the deceased's body, scraping his arm in that pattern. It doesn't look consistent to me. What do I know? But that seems like a whole Brady violation. How did you not produce this dog during the first trial? You're going to use the microchip to say, yes, this is the dog, this is correctly Chloe, but then why didn't you use the microchip to find this dog for trial 1? This seems like a catch-22. I don't know how... This is why judges are important, you guys, because I think the only reason this is going down like this is because of Judge Beverly Cannoni. I'm not saying there isn't another judge out there that wouldn't kind of be doing the same thing that Beverly Cannoni is, but I think a different judge would be like, no, the same expert witness that testified on dog bites for the defense in trial 1, I'm qualifying her as an expert witness again. She's qualified. Let the jury decide. I don't know. That whole case is a mess. I'm going back here. The case is bonkers. The case is bonkers. Oh, man. It never ends. It never ends. Let's see. We've also got P. Jules saying, hey, Cat, Chat, and Mods, Happy New Year. Happy 2025. Thanks for being a member for 3 months, P. Jewel. Andre Cook says this is rough because she is an immigrant as well. And I think this is going back to, I'm going to call it the Skip Bayless lawsuit. I know it's much more expansive than that. And I know a lot of it has started to focus on Joy Taylor. Even my particular focus, the one paragraph that stood out to me the most did happen to involve Joy Taylor. But I do think it's a little weird that Joy Taylor is the buzz of this whole case. Right? There are a lot of parties named in this. Skip Bayless, Joy Taylor, Fox Sports 1. There's a lot of people named, and somehow the conversation seems to entirely be about Joy Taylor, which I'm kind of like, that's seems a little bit like we're just going to look at the woman in the situation the most. Not sure if that's fair, completely fair. But I think this is what this is going back to. So if she's an immigrant as well, that does add a layer of not wanting to say something, right? So, but I don't know. And that sucks. That does suck. That is true. I can't imagine, in my heart, if I could write in a legal complaint that 5-6 years ago, somebody was ready to do extortion to somebody else, falsely accuse somebody else, I'd expect somebody to turn around and call me complicit in whatever they were doing for not saying something about it. So, I don't know. But that does add another layer. Let's see. Lucinda, I'm toggling over here. I see you watching Bev rocking her chair like a grandma on her porch. Yeah, sometimes her body language, and this is why, transcripts of trials don't give you the same thing that a camera in the courtroom can give you, for better or for worse. But sometimes seeing a judge just be lackadaisical, just like chilling over here when they're supposed to be listening intently because their rulings, the rulings that they make, can impact the entire course of a trial. Sometimes even one ruling could take a trial from being on this path to going this way. So a judge should be paying attention, should be listening intently. So it's always a little bit concerning when a judge is either rolling their eyes over and over, looking the other way, seems to be tuned out. I don't know. But not Granny in a rocking chair. Chad Dicky, good to see you. Says tap that like button. Love it. Thank you so much. I think this is also, it says Glee. That's the Whitaker picture, right? I think that's the Whitaker emoji. Good to see you, Chad Dicky. Dee Dee's out here gifting 10 subs. Good to see you, Dee Dee. Dee Dee's another person I love to run into in other chats. So thanks for hanging out with us today. Super thank you for gifting 10 memberships. Show Dee Dee some love in the chat. Let's see here. Okay, so Casey Dog has a Punta Cana story. I got sick at the all-inclusive resort after 2 drinks. You know, found out later 3 others had the same thing happen. Be aware, family. Wasn't there some type of... And I'm not saying it was isolated to this thing I'm thinking of. Wasn't there some type of case or report? I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago. There was some big expose about this happening. Yeah, in the DR. Hold on, wait, I think you guys, okay. Let me go backwards. Was it a, yeah. Factual lie, was it a Rio hotel by any chance? Okay, why is it giving me no news results? Again, like, speaking of going on vacation and then the worst happens, like... Okay, yep, here's a story. I think my internet or my browser was just doing something funky. But this is 2019. This is the story I'm thinking of. 3 Americans die at same Dominican Republic resort within days. The couple was found unresponsive in their hotel room on the day they were due to check out. Ugh. Yeah, respiratory. So Pennsylvania woman died at the same Dominican Republic resort where a Maryland couple died of respiratory failure 5 days later, according to officials and the woman's family. They're going through some of their background. They're there to celebrate their anniversary. And then, like, I'm telling you, that's crazy. Like, and this is what I mean, like, the victims are the victims, but what about your whole family that was just celebrating with you? And then they have to live with this. Like, any death, there's going to be grief. It's going to be sad, but I feel like when a death happens in this manner, something so celebratory, and then just like a light switch changes in an instant, like, that's so crazy. But she says after she and her husband checked into their room and she had a drink from the minibar, Schwab Werner abruptly experienced acute physical distress and collapsed. The efforts of her husband and emergency medical technicians to resuscitate her were unsuccessful and she died. On that same day, a couple from Prince George County, Maryland, Nathaniel Edward Holmes and Cynthia Ann Day, checked into the luxury Bahia Principe, I don't know how to pronounce things, Bougainville at the same resort. All 3 of these words are trying to fight me. I could say luxury. Holmes, 63, and Day, 49, were due to leave May 30th, but didn't check out on time, according to a statement from the resort. After missing their scheduled checkout time on May 30th and following our established protocols, the staff entered the room and found both bodies unresponsive. There were no signs of violence. Police said the couple died of respiratory failure and pulmonary edema. So, and there's the couple. Like, and then to date, no indications of any correlation. Angie says a lot of times these deaths could be air conditioning units and water. Do you mean like mold building up? Like I know like black mold is one, like it can be deadly if you get exposed to the spores. That's crazy. I see Tay Biz is working on a video. I don't know what video. Let me scroll back up. Maybe you're just speaking generally. I think you're speaking generally. All right, guys, make sure you're hitting the bell for Tay Biz. This is going to be a video on demand, not a live stream. So hit that bell so you can see when he uploads it. I'm looking forward to that too. You know, I always love your commentary. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they don't clean them properly and you breathe it in. And I mean, like, obviously, room service is not probably going in and replacing air filters and cleaning air conditioning units, but there should be some degree of regular maintenance, right? But who's doing it? Who's making sure it gets done? Yeah, and I think this is always the problem. And like, this isn't something like an area that I follow cases often. I mean, probably the most like American / foreign case that I've looked at cases would be like Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. And I think those are like different types of cases anyway, you know, that's dealing with espionage. So not really like a death of an American overseas. But I do think that there is a different approach to this. It's more difficult to try to prosecute, you know, even if the United States feels they have jurisdiction in some way, shape, or form. Harder for them to elbow their way in and do an investigation and get information that they would need to approach what they would say would give them jurisdiction, right? So, yeah, this is crazy. You know, this is no judgment on anybody that likes to have a drink on vacation. Not at all, right? You know, enjoy yourself. But at the same time, it seems like the food, and this is different, right? You know, people say like you go and drink water in another country, you could get a stomach ache. So make sure you're drinking bottled water, separate. But the idea that something might not be right about what you're about to consume from the establishment where you're traveling, where you're not familiar, you look like the outsider that doesn't know any better. That could be one of the better things to cut out, slim down on, right? Don't indulge too much. And that's just so scary. I hate that that's a thing. Hegia said, so you have to clean hotels yourself when you check in. There is some, you know, like people like to watch content, people like cleaning and organizing their house or their fridge. I think there's like a niche of creators that go and they travel, but they clean their hotel rooms down. I've seen some of that come up on my feed where the video is just the person cleaning down their hotel room before they stay. So, and I know that's for the content, but at the same time, it's a thing. It's still a thing. So FFS is like still fighting the jury duty over here in the chat. Thanks again, gifting 5 more memberships here, FFS. We appreciate you. I would love to at least hear if you went to try to sit for jury duty. I would love to see what questions voir dire, you know, what do they want to know about you before they qualify you or disqualify you? Angie Lee, thank you so much for sniping, sprinkling a gifted membership here. Good to see you. And then Chloe Alberts Revenge says, this name is a state of mind now, here to stay. Yeah, like your name is like, I call you Chloe sometimes. Like, and I know that you are not Chloe. Your name is about Chloe Albert. especially if I'm on mobile and in a chat. You know, when you're on PC, you could type someone's username and it'll tag it all for you. But sometimes when I'm on my cell phone trying to type rapidly in a YouTube chat with you, I just put Chloe. That's how much this name is like your name now. And no disrespect ever when I just shorten it to Chloe. But it's definitely Chloe Albert's Revenge is definitely you. I'm gonna, like, if we meet face to face ever, you come to one of these meetups, I'm gonna be like, it's Chloe Albert's Revenge. We're using the full name. Natasha, thanks for joining. I mean, this chat was really about Deamonte Kendrick's hearings. Those have been moved to February. We will get together next week for YSL. We've got Christian Eppinger's motion hearing, and Tenquarius Mender's final plea hearing on the 13th. And then there is a pretrial conference on the 17th. So we'll get together next week for actual YSL stuff. I think Deamonte Kendrick was like YSL adjacent today since it's for different matters. But yeah, that, it was live, but it just didn't really end up happening. So yeah, Slim Life says, I keep saying Chloe. I'm on my phone and can't type fast enough. Love it. Hope it's okay that I do that, Chloe Alberts. Yeah, there's something like typing a long name on mobile when the chat's moving fast. It's just like, you got to make a decision. Let's see. Chloe Albert's Revenge also says they aren't even the fatal injuries. It's more about the prosecution defending the McAlbert clan as opposed to prosecuting the case they have. Yep, and something that raised a question with me. Guys, we're talking about the Karen Reed trial, which, you know, there's going to be a second trial there. In trial 1, we got to hear how Brian Higgins, a possible third-party culprit, who, possible motive, jealousy, he was being friend-zoned by Karen Reed. Karen Reed's hanging out with the younger, probably objectively better-looking catch, John O'Keefe. Feels like maybe he got ghosted by Karen Reed. They read some pretty embarrassing chains of text messages between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed in court while he was on the stand. Well, we find out that Brian Higgins, even though there's a motion in order to preserve evidence, he like takes his phone to some military base, throws the phone away, then he takes, I forget the details, but didn't he take some chip from his phone or the hardware device itself to a buddy at some federal office to run it through a machine to clear it? So it's one of those things where if we're already hearing like these, why would you do that? To me, that suggests consciousness of guilt. And the defense, I think that's the message the defense wanted the jury to take away. If these things are in play, how far-fetched would it be to say, sure, now we found Chloe the dog magically for trial 2. We suddenly found this dog that was missing for all of trial 1. We didn't have Chloe for 2 years. Now we have her for trial 2. How far-fetched would it be to say this microchip that's supposed to have been in Chloe Albert, as we know, Chloe Albert, when she was rehomed, how do we know that that's the same microchip? How do we know this is the same dog? Would it be that far-fetched if we heard that Brian Higgins did these other things just because? It's just weird. It's just weird. And again, you know, I like to align myself on the side of the defendants. I think the defendant is the one that's entitled to a fair trial. They get the benefit of the state, the Commonwealth needing to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. You telling me all these things, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Seems like there's some doubt here. The SIM card. Okay, Chloe Albert's Revenge says the SIM card. Like, that alone is just... And that's the thing, like, Brian Higgins is entirely a different possible culprit compared to a dog running out of the house and maybe trying to bite at John O'Keefe, whatever. Both could be in play. One could be in play, and either way, that could still be enough reasonable doubt. So... I don't know. I don't know. Oh boy. Again, if you want to go through the headache, and it's going to be a different lead prosecutor for the Commonwealth for trial 2. If you want to go and watch trial 1, Paralegal Institute of Washington just started the Karen Reed trial rewatch from day 1 of the first trial. You can also rewatch all of it on Legal Vices. So Legal Vices, you guys, if you tuned into our last stream, he passed away in December. Miss him greatly. I think it's been very weird not having his streams. You know, when I'm doing work on these days where we don't have YSL stuff to stream, it's been very weird not having his streams in the morning. But if you want to watch great rewinds, content, informative, very informative, but very entertaining. Let's see if he did a playlist with all the Karen Reed. Okay, so here is his playlist for the Karen Reed trial. Let me link it to you guys. And this playlist, if I'm not mistaken, and if he did it right, you know, sometimes as creators, you guys, like, I forget all the time. I go back like 2 days later, 3 days later, and add a YSL stream day 150. On day 153, I'm going back and adding it to my playlist. So Legal Vices probably did a better job than I did, but this should be a pretty comprehensive playlist here, linking in the chat. But he did cover motion. So this is more than just the trial days of court. He also went through the motion readings as well. So great playlist there. Make sure you check that out. This is pretty much where I watched the Karen Reed trial, between there, potentially criminal. And I know I tuned in when I could to like The Lawyer You Know and Emily D. Baker, but mostly those two were my homes for this trial. Yeah, for sure. And then, let's see. Okay, let's get another one. We've got another rewind here from Morbid Law. Oh, cool. It's live right now. We can go over, I can do the redirect here. Let's set that up. Since we're talking about that, that's where we can do the redirect. Well, before I say that, let me make sure he allows redirects. Customization. Nope, I can't do redirects over there. So if you want to watch the Karen Reed trial, this is day 1. It looks like you can catch opening statements if you just rewind his stream from today. But right now they've got Paul O'Keefe, the brother, interesting character on the stand. We are going to do the redirect over to Dolly Talk, who's doing Judge Fleischer Court Watch. Judge Fleischer, I think funny, snarky, efficient judge. I think you guys will like him. So hop over there, we'll redirect there. But if you want the link, I'll drop this one more time. Oh yeah, Melanie Little. I forgot about Melanie Little. How can I forget? I think she's like, I associate her channel with the Karen Reed trial, so I can't believe I forgot that. So shout out to Melanie Little. Tons of content over there. And I think, I haven't watched all of them, but I do think Melanie Little has also interviewed quite a few people that, you know, either are experienced with specific aspects of law that relate to the case, or were involved in the trial or coverage of the trial in some way or form. So a ton of content with Melanie Little as well. See. Get the link here. We need a crossover episode. Karen Reed goes to YSL. Oh my goodness. Also, Classy Beats. Classy Beats has been holding it down with all of the, let's just say, shenanigans. I know you guys are like, are you guys covering this? Are you guys covering that? Classy Beats morning show is probably the best place to go to get a all-around, all-encompassing recap of things that are happening. And what I mean by that is sometimes I like to cover one topic per stream, and we talk about other things when that thing ends or we're on a lunch break. But we don't, in the bulk of it, we don't typically get a whole recap. It's not like a news summary. But Classy Beats with his morning show does do that. You get a little bit of everything that's going on. And I always feel like you guys are already following Classy Beats, but You know, for those of you in the chat that aren't, you should be. What are you doing? So make sure you're getting over here. This is the channel link. And surprisingly, I'm like leading with Classy's core content today. But don't forget, it is Wednesday. Guess what that means, you guys? Guess what that means? And do we have a link already? Can I link directly to it? Heck yeah, and it's been like a week and a half since I've gotten to do one of these. But guess what day it is? It is time for Club Classy tonight. So there we go. The second link there is a direct link to tonight's stream. That is going to be great. I've got website work I gotta do tonight, so I am going to love having music in the background. This is going to be great. So big thank you. Look at all the love here in the chat for Classy Beats. Big thank you to Classy Beats gifting 10 memberships and really holding it down, summarizing, following all the document drops on so many different cases, right? So if you want more than just YSL content, not only will you get YSL updates over there, but you'll get like this Joy Taylor, YNW Melly, Skip Bayless, all of that stuff, covering that as well. And I think, you've done some Little Dirk stuff too. So there's another one. I don't think we talked about that in the chat really today, but any updates with Little Dirk, you can also get from Classy Beats. So yeah, heck yeah, Taco Tuesday says love Classy Beats show. That's right. That is right. Let's see. And Classy Beats, gracious as always, says thanks for the love, gang. Always enjoy your live streams, Kat. Well, good to see you. We are wrapping it up. Surprised you're wrapped up. Usually when I end early, you're usually still live. Otherwise, when it's like a full court stream, you're the one that's done first. Surprised you're not still going today. But we will absolutely see you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I think we're caught up, you guys. Hold on, wait, I lied. Black Butterfly says, I watched the entire rewind of Woody. I laughed until I cried. Hold on now. Speaking of a rewind, let me see. Where was it? It was a live stream, right? I think it was a live stream. Yes. Yes. Guys, you will not regret watching this stream, this rewind I'm about to link. Tabiz, I love all of your content, but this is one of your best compilations yet. There were several moments, and even the chat was saying it. We don't even remember this. And it was parts that you pulled out from Woody on the stand that, like, you know, everybody pulls that she fired and the pushing Hilton away. Those same few Woody clips are always cited and referenced. But you went and got some moments that went under the radar. This was such a great compilation stream. Plus, you talked about some other interesting cases as well. Guys, Brooklyn, I think was over there. Were you in there, Chloe Albert's Revenge? My point is, whoever was over there that day, because it's a blur, because you guys are all over. If you rewatch this, have the live chat there with you. Make sure the live chat is also open, the live chat replay, and catch some of the commentary. That was such a good stream. So there you go. And let's do some prayers here for Natasha. I'm catching this. I feel like I'm jumping in the middle of the conversation. But I did see Tabiz say, praying for you. Tasha, we're hoping for the best for you. This is never good news. Definitely wishing for the best for you. I know that doesn't seem like much. But anything that we can do to help lift your spirits, we want to do that. And then Flesh of the Gods joining the chat. I was talking about you earlier. Was over in your stream yesterday. Good to see you. We are winding it down. I think we're closing this out. Oh, for always, forever, for life, says Kat. I was worried because I couldn't find you. It feels like forever. In reality, it's been like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. But it really feels, it feels quite like forever. So it's nice to get back on board. If Miss AB is in here today, Miss AB had messaged me offline saying, like, I miss you. I hope you're covering something soon. I hope if she's not here, shout out to Miss AB also on replay. If you guys ever need a sign of life, just check X. I'm over on X quite a bit more. And then let's see. And then Chloe Albert's Revenge is like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I get lost, so who knows? And let's see. Touche says glad to see the fam reunited today. Yeah, like it feels like a long time, but it's nice to see everybody's faces, their names. Justin TV says I did catch some of it. It was a great, great time. And then Chloe Albert's Revenge says, did anyone watch Kayla and Shannon cooking oxtails? No, I forget what I was doing. I was doing something every year, and I'm not doing it this year, but if you knew me last year around this time, you probably saw me recording from High Res Studios. Like, here's my boring little setup now. But if you found me back in January when I was covering, or December when I was covering the Jonathan Majors trial, I had like a cool background with all these like statues from Smite and different games because I was recording in High Res Studios. That was when I was traveling helping my brother with an esports tournament that his company does every year for the game Smite. It's a little bit different this year, so I'm not actually traveling. I'm just supporting because they're sunsetting Smite 1. Last year on their 10th anniversary, they announced the release of Smite 2. And this year, instead of their world championships that they normally do, which is a huge event, it's awesome, they're doing a Founders Series for the launch of Smite 2. So it's a little bit different. I'm not traveling, just supporting it in spirit this year instead of traveling and working along with it. But I've still been busy with that. So the only thing I've caught from that, Chloe, was that Shannon called out Vera from the Law and Crime chat. Oh my goodness. So hold on. Let me see if I could find that. Because I think Kayla clipped it. Let me see. Heck yeah. And I'll let you guys watch it over there. So there's that. I've got to go back and catch up with some of those streams. Those I did not. When she was live, I don't remember what I was busy doing. I feel like I was on another stream, and when I'm doing that, I can't really have the audio because I have to listen and hear what people are saying. So typically if I miss things I want to watch, it's because I'm caught up in a web conference or something. Yeah, listen to that's exactly what I was able to catch. Oh my goodness. Hilarious. Yeah, I agree. Box of chocolates. So Genuine Box of Chocolate says work has been boring without you guys. Right, right. That's my favorite thing, getting you guys through work, having the chat here. When you guys say, just popping in, I'm in the bushes today, I'm working. I always love that. Natasha Robert says, Happy New Year to you, Kat, and your family. Well, cheers right back to you. And again, best wishes. Thank you for the support. And then Nem says, missed you all with the purple heart. Guys, I think I said we're going to Dolly, right? We're going to go over to Dolly Talk to watch Judge Fleischer. I wasn't able to set up a redirect for Morbid Law, but Morbid Law is doing a Karen Reed rewind of Trial 1 currently, if you want to go check that out. Other than that, it seems a little bit slow as far as live trials being aired right now. We've got the CNN defamation case. I don't know. All the other live stuff seems to be like rewinds. Oh, and Nick Starrow's live. Okay. He's doing the CNN case. So if you want to watch that, Nick Starrow is live. This is separate from the Gotti stream. So he is actually live now. So there is that. And Isabella, good to see you, says, miss you, Cat Chat. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year to you right back. Good to see you. I've seen you over in some other chats as well. So good to see you over here in this neck of the woods. And then there we go. Yep, just confirmed. So we'll be going over to Dolly as a redirect. I'll get a link in case the redirect doesn't work. And there you go. So we'll close this out. This will take you over there, and I will see you over in that chat if you join us. If you just want to come along for the journey and hit that like button, that's awesome as well. But other than that, see you guys probably on the 13th for the immunity motion hearing for Christian Eppinger and Tenquarius Mender's final plea. Because remember, he had Nicole Fegan, his attorney, said, look, we still have some other matters. Can we, have some time before we get our last chance to discuss a plea? Because there's some other unresolved stuff we need to look at first. So it seems like that's happening on the 13th as well. There are Rule 22s. I saw someone ask, Rule 22 in Georgia, we want permission to have media access, public access to the courtroom. We want to be in the courtroom. We want to record, whether that means we want to be able to take photographs, still photography, use the camera, or maybe we want to have our laptop or another digital device with us so we can take written notes of what's going on. You file that under a Rule 22 application. So when we hear Rule 22, that's what that means. But WSB-TV, AJC, they've all filed their Rule 22s for those proceedings, so I imagine we'll have a court stream. So we'll get together again on the 13th for that. If anything super crazy happens in between, we'll go live again. Otherwise, I'll just see you out here in these YouTube streets. You guys all have a super, super great one. And Casey Dog, thank you for the encore. Says Pensacola would be nice. I'm just saying. I'll keep it in mind. I've never actually been there. So it'd feel like a trip for me too, right? Rather than hosting in my backyard, Cocoa can be a good time. Cocoa Beach has a lot of spots. It's a little rough looking from some hurricane damage, but it's still I think, well-regarded summer beach vacation spot. But if you guys want to do Pensacola, we could check that out. That'd be really cool to do sometime next year. Let's see. And then Ashley says nothing there. Is that... Just want to make sure that's not for the Judge Fleischer thing. Oh, Melbourne. I'm close to Melbourne. And Melbourne actually has a little bit of a role in in the YNW Melly trial, because after the drive-by shooting, what they say was a framed, alleged, set-up drive-by shooting. It was meant to look staged, is the state's theory. YNW Melly and his friends, his peers, were out there doing a memorial service, a celebration of life service in Melbourne, Florida. That's really where a lot of, the better restaurants, nightlife in this county. I'm in Brevard County. That's kind of like the hub. Even though I would say Orlando is just as close to me as Melbourne, at least the outskirts of Orlando. Brevard's a very long county. Pause. But Melbourne has a lot of stuff to do. So that's another option as well. And there's an airport there. There's a very quick airport, but I don't know if they have a lot of flights for a lot of areas. It's a bit smaller, but it's a very fast airport. I love it. So that's another option there. I do like Melbourne a lot. We'll talk about it. We'll do a Florida vacation together next year. That'd be awesome. And not as a me thing. It'll just be a just because. But good to see you guys. Let's get over to Dolly's stream and see you on the 13th. Bye, everybody. Thanks for visiting.